I'm Gab, he's Jules. Gray skies over West London, but don't worry, we're here to brighten things up for you. Jules, what a weekend. Arsenal win. How about the David Raya save?
Yeah.
City with your boy Ryan Shirky going, even United win. How about that? He changed the system over in Serie A. Big win for Inter away to Atalanta. Pulisic again and Fuego for Milan. But we're going to start down the road here at Stamford Bridge. Aston Villa beat Chelsea 2-1. They have now won 11 games in a row. I think it's something like 19 of 21 since September that they've actually won. Yeah. Is this Unai Emery's genius? Was this Unai Emery's genius again? His dark arts?
I think he, for me, made a mistake by not starting Onana in midfield. That Buendia, Tielemans, Camara was never going to work, even with Enzo playing in the double pivot with Caicedo, which is what Enzo Maresca, who was suspended in the stands, decided to do. And for an hour, really, there was only one team on the pitch, and that was Chelsea, who probably should have been 2 or 3-0 up easily by then. Could have had a penalty that we're going to discuss later, took the lead and looked so comfortable until Emery realized that he had to change something and did so on the hour mark. And to be fair to him, his substitutions from Sancho to Onana to Watkins all worked really well. But I think Maresca not responding to those substitutions also let his own team down.
Right now, Unai Emery is my coach of the year. And I think it's undeniable. We talked about everything that happened in the summer and Monchi leaving the start of the season. They have it. I don't think anybody can argue when you have a team that's punching so far above their weight, given everything they've been through. However, I can't really reconcile that first half in which Villa don't even manage a credible shot on goal of any kind.
0 XG.
That's terrible. Yeah. And you're playing Chelsea. You're not playing Pep Guardiola's Barcelona. The substitutions worked brilliantly, and it wasn't just changing this guy for that guy, because I said they also tweaked it. They moved Tielemans, I think, a little bit further forward. On the other hand, you look at his bench, and again, this is to praise Emery. Of course, you're going to bring on Watkins. You're losing. Yeah. Of course, you're going to bring on Onana. Again, why he didn't start, I don't know. Maybe the flu, whatever. But I'm going to do Onana. I think is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. I'm a huge fan. But I think just as much was the Chelsea's collapse and the inability to play with the lead. And look, maybe I'm being a bit biased here. It's easy to pick on Maresca, but I think you have a serious issue, again, in the way this team was constructed. You have an issue in midfield. You've gone on about the Enzo-Caicedo partnership. Equally, though, unless I want to put Cole Palmer on the bench, I have to play or play him wide. I have to play. Those are the only two guys. Those are my two best midfielders. Unless I want to bench Caicedo or Enzo, which I'm not going to do. So at the back, Benoit Badiashile, I think, was definitely responsible for one of the goals. Yeah, it's a mess, but it's a revolving door there, whether it's him or Fofana or Tosin. Chalobah is asked to carry that back forward because Cole was out. And up front, Delap is a work in progress or work not progressing, arguably. João Pedro is not a center forward to lead the line on his own. And I don't like labels. And Mark Yu is 19 and not ready. And so we can go back to, well, why did they send Nico Jackson away? Why did they build the team in this way? And what options does Maresca actually have to make things better? Because you can get away with a non-scoring center forward, a movement type João Pedro, if your wingers score. But other than Pedro Neto, none of these wingers. If you take Neto out of the mix, Chelsea's wingers have scored 2 league goals this season.
I know.
I kind of want to give them the benefit of the doubt.
No, true. I agree with you on this. We've said it already before on the show. But I go back again to my Enzo point, and I would have no problem for Enzo to be benched, or certainly Enzo should never finish a game like this after
Fernandez. You're talking about here, not Maresca, to be clear.
Yes, sorry.
In case you were wondering.
yes, or Francescoli. But we've said many times before, Enzo Fernandez can play deeper in that double pivot role with Caicedo or Lavia or whoever else you want, in games where Chelsea will control and Chelsea will have the ball and he won't have to move too much, blah, blah, blah. once Onana came on and Aston Villa got better, there was no room for him, and yet he still finished the game in that position.
Yeah, I think this is one of the conundrums that they're going to have to sort out. But we're going to break that down further on the Gab and Juls podcast. And also, moves in January for Villa, maybe go all in. All that coming up. All right, Jules, let's keep going on the Enzo theme here, because he was obviously this massive signing, one of the early signings. A signing that kind of came, I think, before Chelsea kind of did their pivot towards the, hoover up all the youngest talent.
Yeah.
Well, they were still young when he came.
Yeah.
You're very adamant about this, that he cannot play. He can play against a bad team that sits back. I'm on the same page, and I've been on the same page, and I think Enzo Fernandez is too, because we've seen him in certain games where it's Reece James or theoretically Lavia. Andre Santos, I think, was supposed to fill some of those roles. He's not been good this year, so we've seen less of that. But you have a serious problem.
I agree.
You have a serious problem unless you want to drop Cole Palmer or turn Palmer into a winger or a center forward, even, which I don't know that Palmer at center forward is a great idea. I like him receiving balls in different areas, and maybe if you had more prolific wingers, Palmer could be the kind of center forward who drops off and lays off assists. So let's park that. But that's not real. Palmer is a winger. Palmer on the right coming inside, which we saw a little bit, I think, under Pochettino. Does that come into play to accommodate Enzo and have Enzo at 10?
I think you can do it at times.
You'd rather drop Enzo?
Yeah, I really do. It's not for every game, because I think, again, there are games where you could have Palmer in the 10, Enzo in that double pivot with Caicedo, because Caicedo on his own can do all the dirty work, and then Enzo basically is another number 10. So you've got Enzo and Palmer as your 2 10s if you want. That would work. But again, in games like this last 30 minutes against Villa, games against Arsenal, games against City, Enzo is just not mobile enough. He's just not hardworking enough, I think. He's maybe not physical enough, probably, to be able to win that fight in that midfield against, Rice and Zubimendi, against Rodri, let's say, if he's fit, and somebody else. No, it's not just having a big guy there, because Caicedo is the Rodri or could be the Rice and stuff. It's just, I just don't think that. I think you'll have to carry Enzo in midfield in those kind of games. And I think Maresca sees it like us, hence why Reece James is probably the most likely of partnership with Caicedo in those top games in Europe or in the league.
But then that means Enzo goes to the bench. If you don't want Palmer at center forward, you want Palmer at right wing, and you're not going to drop Palmer, even though he hasn't really been at the level he was at before. I want to ask, and then we'll ask quickly about the penalty incident, which was glossed over last night on the FC show. Everybody seemed to agree it was 100% a penalty. Yeah. A ball comes in from the left-hand side. Ian Maatsen is with Pedro Neto in a battle of the giants at the far post.
Yeah.
Maatsen's arm goes out to kind of, as you're taught to do, to check Neto's position. He's not looking at the ball, so he's obviously not intentionally going to handle it. On the other hand, the ball strikes his arm and gets it out of the way from Neto. And if he doesn't do that, then Neto's got a free goal. Philosophically, this to me is more of a penalty. His arm is out.
I know.
And he gets a big advantage from it, whether it was intentional or not.
No, I can hear that, absolutely. I thought that the way Maatsen turns, and you're right, checks where, his arm is there because of the way he's defending. He's not really in an unnatural position because of the way you defend, and he doesn't even see the ball coming over his head. So I think he would have been harsh. I think he could have been given easily.
You wouldn't have had a problem if it was given.
No, but I also thought this was the right call. Or, put it differently, I think the ref doesn't give it like he didn't give it. You don't overturn it. No. I think he gives it. You don't overturn it either.
I think that makes sense. Let's get to the Chelsea center forward situation, because it is January. Like, we've both been harsh Nico Jackson critics when he came in. we both recognized that he really improved last season. Now, did he improve well enough to be the center forward of a Champions League team? I don't know. But what I can tell you is Nico Jackson last season was a darn sight better and more productive than anybody who has played center forward for Chelsea this year. And I think part of it is João Pedro is not that kind of center forward. He's probably more of a second striker, number 10 type forward. And so inevitably, in games where he doesn't have the space, where he can't make his technical ability make the difference, I think he suffers against physical defenders. The lap has contributed nothing since arriving, which again, understandable. You're very young. You come from Ipswich, although he was at a big club before in Man City. You've had issues, the red cards, blah, 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 injuries. That's fine. But Chelsea need to get into the Champions League now. They can't kind of wait on the lap and say, all right, that's fine. Let's write the season off and give the lap minutes and mark you whatever.
But then why did they sign João Pedro then? Because they could not have signed him for, playing as a 10, because you've got Palmer and Enzo really ahead of him in the pecking order. If you had to pick, okay, my first number 10 is Palmer. If he's not there, I'll play Enzo there. And then if he's not there, I play. So you don't spend £50 million on a player that is your third choice number 10. So you must have signed him to play number 9.
I don't think so. I think in certain games, I think they said we can have him at 9. I think they thought that João Pedro could play wide in certain situations, and this is before they went on the spend. This is before they got Gittins and Garnacho and stuff like that, and all that went out the window. They still needed another forward because they weren't sure about the lap. So they didn't want to bring, as I understand, they didn't want to bring in somebody who was a Delap type and could get in the way of Delap's pathway. Because remember, Guiu is also a Delap type. I think a much worse Delap type, but whatever. So they didn't want that. They wanted somebody who was a different profile. I mean, this was their thinking. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Remember, too, they need an alternative to Palmer. Enzo, yes, maybe he's more effective at 10 with his runs. I mean, I think Enzo's best in a 4-3-3 where he's one of the inside midfielders and runs forward. Enzo doesn't have the creativity, the passing that Palmer has, the goals that Palmer has. João Pedro potentially has that. I think that was their thinking. But the situation we're in now, where Delap is not contributing and you can't contribute, I think this is where you really have to question whether they should bring another forward. So, Jules, it's about accountability. So they decided Nico Jackson did not fit this product once they signed João Pedro and Delap. I said at the time, Nico Jackson's progressed. Nico Jackson can play wide for you as well. Remember, it became so imperative to have somebody with the Gittins profile, left side, blah, 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 whatever. I think they need somebody up front because it's important to finish top 4. And you cannot have this situation. João Pedro's also had injuries and whatever, as has Palmer. I don't think bringing Jackson back, I don't think it's something they're going to do because Jackson moving to Bayern with that
loan fee,
with a big loan fee, that was about balancing the books again because they have perpetual financial stability rule issues. Also, Bayern could potentially say, what do we need this guy for? Leonard Carl's the real thing and Musiala's back. But still, if you're talking backup center forward, it's him, right? The one guy, and maybe you can introduce him a little bit more. We've talked about him before on the show. Strasbourg fans, of which there are many, will know who he is. Emmanuel Emegha turns 23, or is already 23.
Yeah.
Scored, I think, 24 goals last season for Strasbourg. He's joining Chelsea in the summer.
Yeah.
Is there any reason why he can't come over sooner?
Unless there's something in the contract or the pre-contract that they've all agreed. I'm sure you can change considering it's
the same owners. Yeah.
I can't see why, unless you don't want to weaken Strasbourg for that second half of the season in Europe or in the league, although they already have in Panichelli a very good replacement who scored a lot of goals already in Ligue 1 2 in the first half of the season. And again, I'm not sure if Emegha right now is ready for this kind of level. Chelsea, Champions League football. He's just made his debut for the Netherlands, for example. He never played in Champions League football before, only Conference League this season. But he's certainly a very confident guy, as we've seen already. So he would probably fancy the challenge and feel like he's ready for it. He has been outstanding since he moved from Austria to Ligue 1. Really, really outstanding. And again, Ligue 1 is not the Premier League, but he's been incredible in his pace and all the runs that he makes. His finishing is good. He's very confident. So with the ball, dribbling abilities, no problem. It's just how quickly can you get to that level?
He's not the lap profile center forward from what I've seen of him.
He's just a better version.
He's not a target man. Well, but he doesn't have the physicality of the lap.
No, yeah.
But he is a proper center forward.
Yeah.
You know, he's less technical Lewandowski type.
Yeah, probably something like that. Yeah,
maybe not as good in the air. I don't think he's as tall as Lewandowski.
No, but yeah, it would.
But he's a real center forward, unlike JP, unlike João
yeah.
Pedro. And then you use João Pedro as your game changer or whatever. I think this would make a ton of sense if you can't spend money, and I don't think you necessarily should spend money if you're Chelsea. And I think that would move the needle. Speaking of moving the needle, if you're Aston Villa, again, another team that's had all sorts of financial stability rules problems. You had whatever chaos they had in the summer. Monchi leaving, Evan Gesson and Bizot coming in, and really not much else, and guys who haven't really contributed. Harvey Elliott's contributed even less.
Yeah.
If you're Emery, should you go upstairs to Mr. Calvo and say, like, hey, this is a situation now. I think we can win the title. But even if you don't believe me, I know for a fact we can get you back in the Champions League.
Yeah.
Look at the table. However, I'm in a situation now where if Morgan Rogers gets injured, I need cover. And as long as we're alive in Europe, my squad is really
better covers than Buendia or better covers than Gesson or Sancho.
Yeah. So we need an upgrade, right?
Yeah.
We brought in Elliott as cover, and he's contributed nothing. And Price maybe should send him back to Liverpool. Can we do something?
I'm not
would
sure
you do it? Would you spend?
Yeah, if they could, I would for sure. I don't think they can. Their wage bill is already massively high compared to their revenue, like a crazy number. The loans for Elliott and Sancho is because they just could not sign players, not just them two, but players overall permanently either. So I don't know how much financially they can do, and it's not what they've earned in the Europa League so far that could change this. You could gamble, I guess.
You can gamble on the fact that if you get in Champions League next year, top four, realistically, I mean, given it's a Premier League, we're talking top five.
Yeah.
I think the lead over is 4 points? I don't have a table in front of me.
I think there's 6 clear.
They're 6 clear of fourth?
Yes, I think something like that.
I'm probably maybe 6 or 7 clear of fifth. So you're in a situation where you can make the argument, let's eat this up.
Yeah.
And then it'll pay for itself a year from now.
Although they've done it before though, right? Only a few seasons ago, and yes, they went to the Champions League and they went fine in the Champions League, but they're still in a very precarious position right now. So I would think they'd be cautious, but yeah, you should go. And even the number 9 position, because a year ago Watkins wanted to leave and they could easily have agreed a deal with Arsenal for him had the price had been right. And John Duran obviously, left the club. Then it's Malen, your backup, who is a bit hot and cold at times. You've got Gesson who can play there. Watkins on Saturday comes on for the last 30 minutes, touches the ball 8 times in the Chelsea box. 4 of those 8 touches are 4 shots. 4 shots on target, 2 goals. The first one is lucky, and there's even a double touch on that one. But Emery seems to be if you also people above Emery say, listen, we can't invest, we can't spend money, we don't have it, it's too dangerous, our wage bill is already 90% of the revenue, it's just crazy. You'll have to do with this. But so far, every problem that this Aston Villa team has, Emery found a solution. Whether it's Buendia off the bench to beat Arsenal, whether it's Watkins off the bench to beat Chelsea, Malen off the bench to win at Brighton, the starting 11, the Camara goal against Wolves, all of that, where you don't know where it's coming because they're either not playing well, not great, stats are not great. I don't know how sustainable this is.
Are not good.
Yeah, I don't know how sustainable it is really. But in those 11 games in a row, or 19 in 21, like you said, which is probably even more impressive, they've had one good half there, one good 30 minutes there, but overall, they haven't been the best even. So I don't know if they can continue that, but there's also a second half of the season where Emery keeps doing what he's doing and they win the title.
It's happened before. It's happened before.